Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone Bashem Rakak Wadash. My name is Yakalba from Plaintables Camp in Philly. Now, you can say this is some groundbreaking information on the Gentiles. All right. You go to Acts the 14th chapter. Now, we always preach that the Israelites were scattered amongst the heathen for punishment, our ancestors, for punishment for worshiping idols, and stopped following the laws of Yahweh. So we got scattered amongst the heathen. All right, that's why we're here in the Americas now. This is why we're cursed to this day. And this is why Esau, the Caucasian Edomites, are on top of us and on top of the other nations. All right, because we sinned, so we got scattered in the nations. So when you go to Acts the 14th chapter, we would immediately say these are who Paul and Barnabas went out to preach to were Israelites scattered amongst the heathen. That's what we've been saying, and that's what we continue to say today. All right, so this is some groundbreaking information. If you're familiar with the languages and everything, if you're not, then you're going to have to kind of learn it, and then this might be an advanced lesson. But if you're familiar with the language of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, then this will be easily digested. If you are not familiar, you're going to have to maybe go back and look at some simpler lessons, and then you'll link everything up. But I will do my best to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible. It's Acts 14:6. You can read up to get the other events that happened. Acts 14:6. They were aware of it and fled into Lystra and Derbe and cities of Lycaonia and into the regions that lie round about. And there they preached the gospel. And there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. This was the Israelites. Only Israelites are going to be healed. Paul and Barnabas were not going around healing people that were not Israelites scattered amongst the heathen. All right. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him and perceiving that he had faith to be healed. So he wasn't healing no Greek. He was healing an Israelite. All right. That was in Lystra. All right. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him and perceived that he had faith to be healed. So he saw that man, or that man saw them, and he knew that they were some great men. All right. And with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet, and he leaped and walked. So he had faith to be healed. All right, now obviously no more things were said. This is like an amended version of what actually happened. All right, but he perceived that he had faith to be healed. He looked at him, and Paul and Barnabas, well, they said the same heard Paul speak. All right, so when Paul spoke, he believed what Paul was saying. All right, so here's the point. The 11th verse of Acts 14:11, and the people saw that what Paul had done. They lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. All right, so they were speaking. So what is this language? The speech of Lycaonia. What is that language? All right, you think it's Greek, right? It's not Greek, because these people were not Greek who Paul and Barnabas and the apostles were going out to preach to. The people that had faith to be healed and were healed were not Greeks. All right. They were being called Greeks because they were living amongst the heathen, amongst the Greeks, whether they were Japhites or Edomites or the other nations mingled together. And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. All right. And the priests of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen. The priests of Jupiter were Israelites. All right. Now, this is Paul and Barnabas persuading them not to give sacrifice, because they were about to sacrifice to Paul and Barnabas. All right. And this is what Paul and Barnabas said, and saying, Sirs, why do these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all the things therein. So he's saying, you Israelites, you should not be trying to sacrifice to us. You just heard us preach and do this miracle. So you should be praising the power that gave us this power to heal that man, who in times past suffered all nations, which the Israelites scattered amongst the Greeks, to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless, he left not himself without a witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness of joy. Now, this statement was made because this was a direct quote, not direct, but it was it's a quote from Leviticus 26 chapter. All right, I'm gonna read that. And with these sayings, scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them, so they didn't do the sacrifice. All right, because Paul and Barnabas made that statement, said himself without a witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons. All right, that's the blessing that the Lord gave to the Israelites. And you look up Leviticus 26. So they remembered who they were. All right, because a lot of these Israelites that were amongst the heathen knew they were Jews, knew they were their ancestors worshipped the Most High, Yahweh. All right. So Leviticus 26:4, 26:3. And if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, meaning your crops are going to grow, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield her fruit. All right, so that's the same thing that's being said. I will give you rain in due season. All right, go back to 14. And that he did good and gave us rain, so he gave the Greeks rain. All right, no, he gave, this is the blessing that was came on Israel. All right, the Greeks don't get to share in the culture and the history of the Israelites, even though these fake Christians do their best to try to merge these blessings together. They are completely separate. All right, so that's that. Now to the language. All right, the language of Lycaonia, all right. And when the people saw that what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. So he saw the power that Paul and Barnabas did. All right, it says here that Paul did, and they uttered in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. So this wasn't Greek. So all I did was I looked up what was the speech of Lycaonia. All right, so this is a Bible study tool. This came up in a Google search. All right, it says the speech of Lycaonia was probably ancient Assyrian language. Or perhaps, as others think, a corrupt Greek intermingled with Saranic words. All right, which I think that it was more than likely that. I think because that's what Israel does. It's slang. They basically mix the Greek and they mix the Saranic or the Assyrian. All right, they're the same thing. This goes back, Assyrian language and Saranic goes back to Aramya. All right, language of Aram, Assyrian and Saranic. All right, it's Aram. All right, so I believe more so it wasn't pure Aramaic, but it was a corrupt Greek intermingled with Saranic words. And you ain't gonna learn this in the Christian church. You ain't gonna learn this from vocab alone. Let's picture up right here. All right, so you have the Paleo Hebrew. All right, right here. Now we went into captivity in Babylon, we started using. Come on now. The Aramaic characters. All right. So there's equivalent Paleo Hebrew to Aramaic characters, all right, with slight variations, but it's pretty much the same. So you can basically form a language. You can translate a language from the pure Hebrew to the Aramaic. So the point is that the people that were in Lystra spoke in the language of Lycaonia, which was ancient Aramaic, all right, ancient Assyrian language. The ancient Assyrian language is Aramaic, all right, which more than likely was a mixture of Greek and Aramaic words, all right. Saranic is Aramaic, all right. This is why we continually tell you that the people that wrote the New Testament are Israelites, all right. The book of Acts, the writings of Paul and Peter, all right, were Israelites that spoke multiple languages. I don't know about Peter, but Paul, Barnabas, Trophimus, all those guys, they knew multiple languages, all right. See, this is groundbreaking information, all right. The language of Lycaonia was ancient Assyrian, which is Saranic, which is Aramaic, all right. So we're gonna get the character thing down first. The Katav Ashuri, all right. After we went into captivity in Babylon, we started using the Aramaic characters, all right, to speak the Hebrew and to speak the Aramaic, all right. So it was like a slang. It was using both, all right. Used to write both Hebrew and the Babylonian Aramaic, all right, and that's what we were speaking, and that's what we were writing amongst the Babylonians, because that's what the language they spoke. That was the majority. So we spoke their and wrote their language. We used their characters. All right, it's also called the square script. The term is used to distinguish from the Paleo Hebrew script, all right, which let me see, showed you here. All right, so basically we use the Aramaic characters, okay, right here, as you see right here, Aramaic characters, that's what we read in the blue letter, to write Hebrew, to read Hebrew, to read the ancient Hebrew. All right, so we don't use these characters anymore. All right, we use these characters now. All right, and they have the exact equivalent from each other. All right, so the Aramaic alphabet displaced the Paleo Hebrew alphabet. So now to speak Hebrew, you use the Aramaic alphabet. All right, let's go back to the Katav Ashuri, Assyrian script, our traditional Hebrew language, name of the Hebrew alphabet. All right, used to write the Babylonian Aramaic. All right, so this is what we use. These characters, Kathab Ashawarya. I believe that means Assyrian. All right. Now some more evidence that the Assyrians were the dominant within the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, but they just reigned as Babylonian kings, but they were really, the leaders of them were really Assyrian. All right. Kathab Ashawarya. Go to Kings. 2 Kings 18:26. Then Eliakim said unto Hilkiah the son of Shebna and Joah unto Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and talk not with us in the Jews' language. All right, so you look up Syrian language, you have 8762. You have Aramia. Okay, Aramia, the Aramaic language. All right. In the Syrian language, because this is a Greek way. Syrian is a Greek way of saying Aram. All right, Aramaic language, Aram. All right. And you click on it, it has a Hebrew equivalent, H761. All right, using the same characters, and you can see Esau pronunciation slightly different, and has different vowel points. Aramia. All right, Syrian. All right, So let's go back. Lycaonia was the ancient Assyrian language. All right. A speech of Lycaonia. So they weren't speaking Greek to Paul and Barnabas. All right. So it was in Saranic, Aram. Syrian means Aram. All right. Yeah, kings. All right. Syrian language. Aramaic language. All right. Now, Rabshakeh, so you know. No, Rabshakeh. All right. Rabshakeh, a Babylonian official. Rabshakeh, which is really Assyrian. All right, and the Babylonians, so probably Assyrian Rabshakeh. All right, because the Babylonians and the Assyrians kind of merged together. So when you look them up, it's kind of confusing. Like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to Assyrian? Are you talking to an Assyrian? Or are you talking to a Babylonian? All right. But the point is that what language were they speaking? All right. Let's go up a little bit. Now, therefore, I pray thee, give pledges to my lord, the king of Assyria, and I will deliver thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able. All right. All right, so this is when the Assyrians were coming up against the Israelites. Let's see, we got a little something on the top here. Invasion of Judah. All right. All right, the king of Assyria did carry away Israel into Assyria and put them in Hilah in a harbor. All right. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. All right. And the king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabsardis and Rabshakeh from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a great host against Jerusalem. All right, just so you can know that these were the Assyrians coming up against the kingdom of Judah. Hezekiah, yeah, the kingdom of Judah. All right, so we're gonna go down. All right, so this is the king of Assyria. So what language did the king of Assyria speak? All right, the Saranic language, which is Aramaic, Aramia. Aramaic. All right, so that's pretty much a lesson. We proved what the speech of Lycaonia was with a little research. All right, ancient Assyrian language. It says a corrupt Greek intermingled with Saranic words. All right, which is Saranic goes back to Aramaic. I got one more point. All right, and Syriac. There we go. Groundbreaking. The people that Paul and Barnabas and the disciples that could speak Greek, they were preaching to Israelites scattered amongst the heathen, speaking pretty much broken Aramaic / broken Hebrew. All right, these are the same. Yeah. Well, yeah, they got scattered. Yeah, since the Babylonian captivity, and we came into Persia. Yeah. We were pretty much scattered throughout the Greek world from the time of Babylon, after Babylonians got taken down by the Persians. All right, we were scattered all over. All right. Syrian is akin to Syriac. All right, language goes back to Aram, Aramia, Aramaic language. So he was speaking Aramaic. Broken Aramaic with Greek, mixed with Greek, because they were scattered amongst the heathen. So let's go to some similarities here. Some similarities. Daniel's 2nd chapter. All right. The Aramaic again. Then spake the Chaldees to the king, and Syriac. This is Aramaic. 762. I already had it up anyway. Aramaic language, all right? The same language that the Assyrians were speaking. All right. There we are. 762. Syrian language. 762. Assyrians speaking Aramaic. All right. The Assyrians speaking Aramaic. So similar words. So let's click on a random H4430 Daniel 2:5. I already have it up. H4430. So this is king in Aramaic. As you can see, it's Malak, Malaka. All right. Aramaic. All right. You click on the word. It's Hebrew, same characters. Malaka. All right. So Hebrew and Aramaic are very close languages. This is why our ancestors back then could speak our Aramaic tongue just as well as they could speak the Hebrew tongue. All right, but with slight different. It's not the same language. It is a distinct language, but they have words that are very similar. Original Hebrew. All right. See this word shows up. Genesis a lot. So this is Hebrew. All right. And you can see the other one shows up after they come out of captivity. Right here. See Artaxerxes, king. So started in Ezra, Daniel. See Aramaic. All right, and Ezra's and Daniel. Because when we went into Babylon, we started using the Aramaic characters, and we ceased using the Paleo-Hebrew. All right, and we let's say co-mingle certain pronunciations in Aramaic and Hebrew, so it kind of got mixed together. And that's why people get confused. All right, but I think I brought it out pretty clear. So I ended here. The Assyrian language was Aramaic. The Saranic is Aramaic, and what the language of Lycaonia was corrupt. Greek and Aramaic words mixed together. That's what our people were speaking. They were speaking broken Greek, Aramaic. And people that Paul and Barnabas preached to and healed, the ones that had faith, were Israelites scattered amongst the heathen. So the speech of Lycaonia was more than likely broken Greek, broken Aramaic, because that's the language that we were speaking in part coming out of Babylon. Hebrew, Aramaic, and scattered amongst the other heathen, Greek. So it was a mixture of that pursuant to my research. All right. So hope you edified. Shalom.